Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Brett Tippie Podcast. I'm Brett Tippie, and this is Mark Weir, our guest this week. He is a long-time mountain bike freak, enduro racer in the early days. He has climbed 1 million feet in a year, vertical feet, and won the Downieville Downhill 8 times, as well as many other crazy stories. And he's a great guy and full of life. And there's only one Mark Weir. So here he is himself, Mark Weir. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for, talking to me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is nice because this is, I've been doing a lot of Canadians, and it's nice to have a fast American, long time rider and racer, and great to be here at your house in the center of fun here by Novato.
Yeah, Novato. Yeah.
And you took us out for a great ride today, 4,400 vertical feet. We climbed and descended.
Yep.
And just had a great time. Some steep, some fast sections.
And we took some of your Canadian buddies. Andreas Hessler one time with his mechanic. He was a
World Cup racer, cross country racer.
Yeah. He came here and it was March, and he's like, "Why are you dressing up?" I'm like, "Dude, because it gets cold up there." It's like, it's only 2,000 feet up. I'm like, "Yeah, wait till you get up there." And they go in their T-shirts.
We're from Canada.
Yeah, you guys are Nancy's. And I'm like, all right. We get up to the top of the towers where you were at, and it is blowing like 60 miles an hour. It's like hail, rain, wet, and they were purple. And they went down that face that we went down, and they were crashing because it was all muddy. And I'm like, we're a bunch of sissies from NorCal, aren't we?
Yeah, there you go, right?
You thought it was warm and fuzzy here. Well, welcome to America, bud. It was pretty funny.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, great trails, cool place. And this is where you call home with your wife Susie and your son
Gus. Yeah,
Gus. And I look around here, and there's got lots of bikes and some old bikes and some e-bikes and some dirt bikes. And you definitely, and some RC cars over there, a bunch of them.
Oh yeah,
you definitely know how to have fun.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole process here. It's like you're not here for a long time, but like, this was a pretty cool garage before. Then the house burned down. We lost everything. And I had way too much shit anyway, so we rebuilt, and it turned into this. What year was that?
You lost everything in the fire.
I think it was 2009, and fire came in, and man, it started inside with an RC car battery, of course, right? Because they're super stable. Oh, boy. And I was storing them inside, and I didn't know anything about lithium ion, and I just parked my Jeep inside for a Jeep CJ7, 1986. Like old Jeep that we refurbished, and then my wife had her Ford Flex, the soccer mobile, right, parked next to it. It was December 27th, and go inside, and I'm inside, and I'm like, Susie's like, "Hey, an alarm just went off in the garage." My kid's 6 months old, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll go check." I open that door, and this whole thing is done, like on fire. So we run out. I'm in my boxers. And I grab my kid and my wife. We go out front. I go and open up the garage door. The keypad works. And I'm like, so the fire is burning. My dad had particle board all on the roof. And it's burning, probably 6 feet down. There's probably a gap down to the floor. I crawl in. I'm like, I think I can save my Jeep. I'm trying to save stuff because I know all my bikes are stacked against the side. We had this little office over here. My dad was a dentist. It was the painless dentist office. He was gone. We were, he moved to Iowa, but like we were in here, and I'm like, I got to save something, like there's no way that it's going to take everything from me. So first I grab the hose. It just gives it the Heisman. Like the fire is so hot that the water is just evaporating. So I get on my hands and knees and I start crawling into my Jeep, and I'm like, I know the keys are right there on the floor, and it's real tight because I had so much crap in here. And my neighbor, Steve Piscini, comes in, big fella, like 300 pounds. I mean, he's portly, but like he's still big. He just grabs me by my feet and hucks me out the door. He's like, "You're done." Because I didn't know that if you open up your garage door, that's why the firemen have those big sticks, the big steel sticks, and they prop the door open because the door will come back down on you and trap you in here. And I'm trying to I just want to grab a bike or grab something because I have nothing, like. So all said and done, I start calling Ben Cruz and Rodrigo, all my buddies. I'm like, "Hey, the house is burning down. You guys need to get here." And they're like, "No, you're just trying to get us over here to party and drink." I'm all, "No, the house is burning down. bring beer, and I'm in my boxers, and bring me some clothes and stuff too. And they show up, and the whole house is just, fire department's like, we're not even going to save it. My neighbor said he has bombs in there because in the beginning of tubeless, we were running tubeless, like ghetto tubeless, before stands even was a stain. We were running like duct tape and BMX tubes and all this stuff. And you put it on the rim and it would blow off, and it's a big boom.
Yeah.
And Lopes was there on one of those occasions where it just blew off, and it just gave me the money shot everywhere. Sealant, we made our own sealant, all this crazy stuff. This fire department comes and goes, your neighbors say you have bombs in there. I don't have bombs in there. And then as soon as they said that, I had this Zero, when Zero was just starting, the E motos.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of lithium cells in there, and it just blew up and blew out the side of the stucco wall.
Oh, no.
They're like, "Are you sure you don't have bombs?" So they just pulled off, and the whole house just burned down. And we were just like, ugh. Anyway, it was a good learning curve. Like if you're looking for a new job, burn your house down, even though you have another one. Because you got another
lot of work to do.
Yeah, a lot of work, and it sucks. And
you don't get everything back in insurance. You can't.
I didn't.
You can't remember everything you had.
Well, they said line it all up, and I was sponsored by Traxxas back then because I'm an RC nerd, and I had pallets of RC cars. I had so much. I was storing stuff like a squirrel because I never knew when this train was going to end, and I wanted to have enough stuff so I could ride my bike till the end.
Yeah.
And I had stuff in the rafters and all my race bikes and stuff, and all these bikes on the roof now. All these bikes are ones I gave to people, and they gave them back to me after the fire so I could hang them, you know?
You needed them more than they did at that time. Yeah.
Well, they just wanted me to have some of my history back, I mean, the Nomad and the VP Free, we did the 1,000,000 feet on, and, the single speed 24-hour national bike that we won the nationals on, like a whole bunch of stuff, that early free ride Phoenix bike up there, like just a whole bunch of stuff that I got back.
Yeah.
And that was because of my friends, and you don't know who your friends are until you actually have nothing.
Until your house burns down.
Yeah, until your house burns down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was a trying time. But
it looks nice now. Let's go back to the beginning. Where are you from originally? Where were you born? Where were you raised? What was your first bike, and what was your first mountain bike? All in that order.
Okay, so where I was born in Detroit off of 8 Mile. And my dad had a practice there, and then the whole Ford and all that stuff shut down. I was probably only like 1 year old, 73. And my dad's like, we got to get the hell out of here. And we moved to Santa Fe, and then from Santa Fe, we were only there for a year, and then we moved into this house. And from then, it was like, we were living in the country, probably a bunch of yuppies, I guess they'd probably call us, or just like, because my dad was, a dentist, an oral surgeon, right? And he's raising a bunch of kids out here and moved just in. And we had the Roaches behind us, which that's her last name, scary people. All this scary stuff happening, horses all over the place. And I would just ride my big wheel around and skid, and we had pampas grass, no fences. Like now it's all gates, and everyone's got a gate, right? Because you got to keep the bad people out.
Do you remember your first bike?
My first bike was a full-on, I think, Japanese little. I first had one of those Schwinn. What was that? A Stingray.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, with the big fat flat, like skidder tire, you
know?
Yeah. And that was a hand-me-down that I got from my neighbors, the Pedricks. They're still there. And then I kind of raised up and got this, it was called a Storm, and it was a chrome ollie junker. But by the time I got to about 6th grade, I raised enough money to get a GT Pro Performer because I want to be a freestyle rider, right?
Okay.
And my dad looked at me and he's like, "You sure you don't?" That was right when mountain bikes were something like the Corsaro and like all those. "You sure you don't want a mountain bike?" I'm all, "I want a BMX bike, Dad." And I got the BMX bike, and it ended up I got the pegs on the back. And then I just ended up trolleying my buddy Wickersham around all over the place because he couldn't ride a bike because all he did is crash and slap. So I'd go and pick him up the, like probably 3 miles up the road, up this steep hill. I'd go to his house before school, pick him up, and then I'd take him to school. And then I'd ride him home on the back of the pegs because he was built like a twig, and he was thin. So I did that. We did that until 8th grade, and then I got into high school, played a lot of sports, soccer. I love soccer. And, I had a chance to go to Germany when I was 15. And the way the coach placed it, he's like, I'd go to school there and I probably would never come back because I'd end up playing soccer.
Yeah.
And I was on the California state team. I did all this stuff till I was 15, and my dad wouldn't let me go to Germany to go extend the career. So I just quit soccer and started playing football. And football was cool, I guess, if you're into girls and in high school and stuff, because all the cool guys are doing it. But it wasn't a team. It wasn't my team. And, going to high school and stuff, I didn't like high school much, like I liked my friends. I didn't like school. I wasn't built for it. And got out of high school and I was at my buddy's house. I didn't drink all through high school. I did nothing, no drugs, no nothing. It was a bet that I had with my dad. And I held up my end. And when I got out, I started drinking because all my buddies were drunks, basically. They all drank a lot. Like, it was crazy living in this town. And I was over at my buddy Ken Violi's house, and I'm like, I'm just going to drive home. He said, why don't you take the Sabertooth? I'm like, what the hell is this? He had a Yakota, and it was a full rigid. And it is like 1991 or something. And I'm like, and I was always kind of riding mountain bikes a little bit, borrowing bikes, breaking bikes and stuff. And I'm all right. He's all, here, I'll put a light on it. Go over Burdell and go home. And I got on that bike and I did this whole loop by myself.
Changed your life.
Oh, I came home. I, had a job. I was going to the JC. I was working and digging ditches and stuff. I was full construction, and then going to school, and I raised enough money. I even got Redwood Credit Union gave you loans on stuff. So I took out a loan to buy my first bike and bought Yakota El Capitan. And then I got a half dome and I started doing races, and then I couldn't let it go.
So your first race was, I think, 92 or 93, was it?
93. 92, I did the Fairfax, came back. I think it could have been 90. I think it was probably 93 or 94. And Fairfax, you met some of these guys, Chris Lang, all these guys, and they had a downhill race, and they had all Miles Rockwell's buddies. He wasn't there because he would have smoked us all, but I showed up there in spandex and a white T-shirt, and they had a downhill, and I'm like, I'm doing that downhill. And I ended up coming down with full rigid. That was when the Boulder bikes were there with the shock in the seat, the top tube, and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they were all like, oh, we're going to smoke. And I ended up winning. And the guy's like, you couldn't have won. We don't even know who you are. My dad's like looking at all the numbers and stuff. And he's like, no, my kid won. You guys are wrong. You got and I end up winning. And I'm like, I got a real chance. And I had my buddy James there, and he's like, I was all cut up from practice because I carcassed a bunch of times. And it was just like it was a fire road all the way down in Tamarancho, and then just hit a little piece of single track finish line, right?
Yeah.
Just full on, like kind of a mini repack, real mini. And won that race, and I won some money, and I'm like, wow, this is I can do what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I started doing all like Keith DeFibri, him from the slalom. He had races at Puda Creek and stuff. So I started doing all those things and just kept on hammering, getting jobs like Performance and Mike's Bikes. Moved to Sun Valley for a while, worked there at Backwoods, and did a Trail Quest program for the kids. So
this was cross country.
Oh, well, it was cross country downhill. Was there a difference? I don't know if there was.
When you went there, yeah.
Yeah, when I went there, I wanted to be a downhill racer, but there wasn't really.
We use the same bike.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, now I just actually do nothing. I lower my seat, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like you could do both sports and still be, as long as you were fit, right? Because even the downhills, you had to be fit. So there is a lot of. It was just a blurred line of what kind of athlete you were, because I didn't really enjoy cross country that much unless I was winning, and downhill was like enjoyable because you were done. Even though if you didn't win, you still got a rush out of it.
Yeah. But
cross country was like if you didn't win, you just had pain in your head.
You're just hurting.
You're just hurting. But I raced cross country mostly, and then in the early days I was. Back when I started racing for like Santa Cruz and stuff, I was signed on more as a cross country racer. And then I was just kind of doing, downhill in between. That's when like the V10 came out, and I was doing downhill. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to race a short track. So I started racing short track. And that was when short track just started, and I was a bully because I was a big kid, 190 pounds, but I had fitness. And in the inside, there's trouble for anyone on the outside. And it was like some pretty cool with Shepherd, Shepherd. Yeah. Until he got all sauced up, boy, we were beating his. He was a fit bastard. I loved him, dude. But he did cheat a bit. But he
busted himself publicly years after.
Yeah, no,
But I heard you got real mad at him because you're like, dude, you took like podium spots, you took money, prize money, in sponsorship situations.
Yeah.
It's nice of you to come clean now, but what about then? What about all the rest of us?
I know, and it's not like I was even I was in the mix at some points, but I was so here and there. But still, like you're in the mix in a short track, it's like top 15 all finished together, and doing like single speed worlds with like Barry Wicks and like Trebon and all those guys smoking their asses at the Napa. Like I lost by a wheel to Decker, but I was on a Nomad that I built with a singulator on it. And 300 guys started, and I was leading the race most of the time. And then I lost by a wheel to Decker because he was one gear up on me.
Yeah.
But I love Decker. Guy fucking charges. So yeah, it was cool because they always look down on the guy that could go downhill fast and never think they have fitness to like actually, earn what their spots are. Because it's the same way. Downhill looks at XC guys the same way, and that's what Enduro turned into. Yeah. So all of a sudden Enduro...
You can't ride. You can't pedal.
Yeah, you're like, hey, how about if you can do both? You know? So like I was just... Seemed like I was waiting for Enduro the whole time because I didn't like either of them that much. Yeah. Downhill was scary and XC was painful.
Well, didn't you go over to Europe and race some Enduros like with Fred Glow and some of the early like Italian and hit some French ones maybe? Or
mostly French ones. I did the FMF series. It was called FMF in the beginning, and then it went to Tribe Sports Group.
Because they were ahead of the game back then.
Oh God, they like if you could set up courses like that and not have people practice and just truly on site, you might actually get to see the place you're at.
Yeah.
Because when practice gets in there, I think it defeats the purpose of an adventure. And Fred was and Juju and like all these guys setting up these courses, like the top 50% of these tracks were just flagged in grass. And 4,000-foot drops, and just stay between the gates, people.
Yeah,
and it was epic. I never had races like that. It was my favorite time of my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
and you're racing like eventually like guys like Nicolas Voyot was doing Enduro and like so many legends. Absalon.
Yep, I beat them all.
Yeah.
At one point or another, I did beat those guys, and I got respect out of them. Yeah. We did a lot of racing together.
How many people can say that?
I mean, Nicholas is like a good friend. I love him and respect him to death. But when I first went to Europe, I was more fit than all those guys. And you can ask all of them, and they will agree. Like, we did the mass start at Les Deux Alpes, and I took off the top, and you got Remy Absalon and Jerome was even there. He's a squirt back then. Like we were like, who's the guy on the Motobacan?
Jerome
yeah. And and Fred looked at me. He's going to be the best in the world at one point. And I'm like, oh man.
And he did.
Yeah, and he was. So like
he won the first EWS season.
Yeah. He's
he dominated for years.
He's perfect. He's very precise.
Yeah.
And those guys. But when I got there, I started off the top, and I'm sitting like second or third or something, and they don't even know who this guy is with like a half shell. Like I had a Helios like Giro helmet, road helmet on.
Did you have no pads too?
I never ran pads. Yeah. And they changed the rules because of me, because I was never running pads. I'm like, this is just like a trail ride. But I got onto the flats, and I just start motoring, and I just take off from all of them. And the only one that could hold the wheel was Remy Absalon. And I'm all, dude, I'll pull you all the way to the next section, because I didn't know it like the French. They all ride there. I mean, they're scrimmage heroes, they know the tracks. It's their own backyard. Why wouldn't they, right?
Yeah.
As soon as we go to drop in, I pull over and let them drop in, because I knew, he's going to pass me because they open the gates at the bottom on some of those mass starts, and you don't know if they're open or not. And if you don't ride chin up and really actually be able to look, like Nicholas told me one time, he's like, dude, chin up. You're going fast enough, you're going to get hurt if you don't look ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not there yet. So I just followed him all the way to the end. Ended up getting second behind Remy. Tried to take him in the inside on the very finish and couldn't get him. He was too good.
Yeah.
But still, like, all those guys were behind us. And I was like, this is pretty cool. That was my first year there. And then I kept going back for like 6-7 years or something, trying to bring it back to the U.S. But everyone's
they
like,
knew you then.
Yeah, well, the U.S. didn't care. They didn't even notice it. Like Mountain Bike Fiction wouldn't even like talk about it. You know,
because
like,
Enduro was something that happened over there, and it was like
they're like, that doesn't make sense. Like it didn't actually equate to downhill or cross country.
But how many like stages were you doing a day? Like 8 or 9 or something?
We did. They do 3 courses. You do 3. Runs on each one on Saturday, and then the Sunday course was 2 courses, and you do 4 runs.
Okay, but then the ones like when you first got there, practice or no practice?
You could, I mean, there's no practice. You're not allowed to actually ride the course.
Yeah.
You could hike the course, but they're 4,000 feet. Like I did it once, and I took the chairlift up and hiked down. I'm like, that didn't help.
No.
Now I'm real tired.
No, I'm tired.
You know? So, I mean, it was cool because I liked it because you could go to a place and explore. You know that no one's getting the drop on you. You know that they're not getting more practice than you, you know
the course and all that.
Yeah, and you can actually experience and go ride other things because if you're caught on the course, you're disqualified.
Yeah.
So you could go and explore all this other awesome place that wasn't the course and mountainside.
Not be guilty for not being there.
Because no one's getting the
no one else is getting the prep.
Yeah, so it's just true on-site, and true on-site is something that I think that left the building.
And the enduro racing in the States wasn't like that. And when did they bring the French format to North America and start racing that?
I don't think they ever truly brought it to America. I still don't think it's here, and it never will be because of the way that they can run stuff in France and just tape stuff wide, no trail.
Yeah.
You know, and they started doing like the 12-mile Super D. Downieville was like something that was close, but hell, I practiced the hell out of that thing, you know? And it was like everyone was. So it wasn't truly enduro. It was
because there was a lot of Super Ds going on in North
Super
America.
Ds in Vermont and Colorado and Utah, like all these different places.
But you would have rather raced like the European style with like fresh downhills with
fresh downhills, and no one gets the
and stages.
And stages, and like they had chairlift assist on all of ours. You didn't have to pedal much in these French enduros at all.
Yeah,
like you got dropped off at the top, and then maybe had to pedal up to the start like a half mile.
Yeah.
And then it's just super long downhills. Like at Valawar was my favorite place to go. And they had a 9,000 foot drop that was real.
9,000 feet?
Dude, huge.
3,000 meters?
Dude, big.
Wow.
Big. And it was
a whole set of brake pads.
Oh yeah. It was I ended up second on that run, and Remy beat me again. I crashed hard, ripped my pedal off right at the end. So I had to kind of limp dick it down. But like it was real, but it was like a fitness race downhill, basically, from just getting beat up from going downhill for so long.
Yeah.
But all the courses were real. Like we were going down an old Roman mailway for like 8 minutes of just nonstop speed, like brake burner, like peel your claw off your bar. And everyone at the end was just like practically hugging because they were so like stoked they made it, and it was such an adrenaline rush. And it was just the way that they set up those events is something that probably will never happen again. It just can't. It was right in the beginning, and it was so pure, and people didn't get the drop on you. It was just man on man, true.
Yeah. Well, the way the EWS is more along what you think the way they should race than the Super Ds. You didn't like the Super D format, actually, did you?
Well, I the Super D format was, like Sea Otter, let's just do an event because it says Super D and get some money out of people and have a really lame course. I won't do courses that suck. Like, there's no reason to. Like, if I'm not going to enjoy the course and have a good time with it, Trans-Provence, like that is the best stage race of all time. Like there's no stage race that'll ever compare to Trans-Provence because it's truly on site. Because Ash is a true badass, and the way he sets it up, no one will know the courses. And you're covering
interpretive.
Yeah, and
reading and executing.
Yeah, 7-day stage race in the beginning, and you go all the way through France, all the way to Provence, and you're just covering so much ground that no one could actually practice that stuff because he's a map reader, you know. So you have to truly on-site that, and Jerome won that, and Jerome Clements. I battled with Fabian and
Burrell?
Nicholas Vuillot, like all of us. I got fourth a couple times. Marco Osborne ended up winning it 2 times. Only American to ever do that.
Really?
Ben Cruz and I raced it a bunch, and that is one of the best events I've ever been involved in.
That's cool. So you get these, you know, great results with the, like, you know, the haunches, the legends, and you know, the sponsors must have started, you know, to take notice. So then you were like getting paid to do this, and you were like being sent there to go and hit the big races. And then what sponsors did you go through to before you went to Cannondale?
So I was riding for Santa Cruz for a long time, 10, 12 years when you know, Rob Roskop and I we're buddies, but he's a dick, you know, like the way that he does a lot of stuff, you know, like he doesn't remember how he gets to where he's at, and he probably would say I'm lying. I don't really care because I got nothing to lose, but like he put something on the line with me and said, hey, you're going to sign this deal and we want to pay you with bikes instead of all cash and like all this stuff. I'm all, dude, I'm a professional. That's not how professionals act.
Can't eat bikes.
I can't put a bike on the table. I got to sell this stuff. Like, and I'm like, he's all signed the deal, and he gave me deadlines and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'll tell you later, and just kept putting it off. And I was with him for a while, you know, and because during Downieville, they wanted me to ride Santa Cruz. I rode a Giant, I rode a Specialized, I rode an Ellsworth, I rode Carpiel. All these different brands, you know, I have a Carpiel up there, one of my old bikes. And, you know, I rode all those bikes, and he wanted me on a Santa Cruz because his Santa Cruz guys kept losing to me. But I'm like, your bikes suck before VP. I'm like, your bikes are crap. Then they got VP, and he's like, you got to try this. And it was like the Blur 4 Cross. And then I got that, and I won on that. And then I started going to the Nomad. I'm like, your head angles are too freaking steep. They're 67.5. I need 64 degrees, steeper seat angle. I need these things. And he's like, we can't do that yet. You know, consumers aren't ready for it. And that's that custom one over there with the 64 degree head angle, all custom seat angle. And I won on that thing 4 times. And it was a badass bike. And
the Downieville.
For Downieville. Yeah, because Downieville is a pedal fest, you know. It's a pedal fest, but with a lot of fast, nasty stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this
how
bike...
How long is the Downieville downhill?
It's 16 miles and 42 minutes or something.
And how much
it drops 5,000 feet and climbs about 700 feet.
Oh, wow.
But at the end, it's flat. And you got to be
pedals.
on the pepper, dude. Like, you got to be...
At the end?
Road bike fitness, yeah, full gas.
What do you think about when you're in the pain cave like that and you got to bury yourself?
You're just losing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Not losing.
I mean, everyone sits there and you're like, oh, it's just Downieville. And I'm like, hey, well, you sent Jürgen Benecke, you had Lopes, you had... Greg Minar, you had Nathan Rennie, you name all the guys that came to Miles Rockwell, they all came to beat me, and none of them did. And any time that we went to the start, I knew that only time they could win is if I flatted. And it's because I knew it so well. There's no one that's going to take it from me, and the only time I did lose is when I flatted.
Yeah.
And I flatted one year, and what people don't get about Downieville, I always gambled on myself with my sponsors. I put 10 grand on the podium one year, and for anyone to get $5,000 for the winner. But I also banked all my incentives with EAS and all these other guys, Fox Clothing back in the day. And if I win this race and break the record, you have to give me all my incentives and then put that in my pay the next year and then start it again.
Gambling on yourself.
Yeah. And I was doing that. So like you could, you know, win $45,000 in a race.
Damn.
And it was like stuff that people weren't doing, and I was doing it, and people would pay. And that was the way it was with the way Santa Cruz paid me. All these guys did well, you know, and we got that name out, and it was from talking shit. I talked a ton of crap, you know, like Jürgen Benecke, we don't get along, you know, like we're probably
German? Friends
now. He's German, but he's just so dry, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on with that, you know, and a lot of, you know, and I probably wasn't that fun to be around because I didn't eat much. And I didn't drink. I didn't do anything. All I did is just get angry and ride my bike. And I was very focused. And you had 365 days to think about this one race. And then you had 1 day to do it. It's like try and do 10 free throws in 10 years and make 8 of them.
Yeah,
you know,
amazing.
And not fail, you know.
What was the closest someone came to you?
Well, I lost to Henry O'Donnell. I still think it was a clock malfunction on my part because I think it stopped. So I thought I was too far ahead, and he got me by like 9 seconds. But other than that, I think I was always like 20 to 30 seconds up on everyone.
Wow.
Probably Jason Mosler maybe came the closest. I don't know. I'd have to look at the times. Once I won, I didn't even care. I didn't even look. I'm like, you guys got smoked. Yeah. But, you know, like I had practice runs that were like, it was just, you know, like you hit third divide. And if anyone's ever ridden third divide, I would do no brakes for like the first 45, 50 seconds. And I'd hit 48 to 50 miles an hour. And one year they actually put all the Garmin checkpoints on us. Like basically everyone had a GPS on them that was in the top 10.
Yeah.
And they were always going like, oh, he wins it on the uphill and stuff. I won every downhill part and every uphill part. And the only one that beat me in one section, I think it was Henry, but it was like by 1/10 of a second. And Henry O'Donnell's a badass. So like he is a nasty man, and you should see him cut a tree down or just pick his dirt bike up over about a 5-footer.
Yeah.
He's a monster of a kid. He grew up in Downieville, and if anyone should beat me, it should be him.
Oh, man.
Really good man.
Oh, the Downieville. Now, there's 2 parts to it, though. So you won the downhill 8 times. There's the classic is the cross country and the downhill together.
Yeah.
Did you ever win the both? The
well,
classic?
so that's a slippery slope. So like they were judging it always on time. The downhill is 40 minutes. The cross country is 2 hours. So I got top 5, second, third a bunch of times. And if they started judging it the way that they are now, I probably would have won a bunch of the.
But they added the times together.
No, so they did the times together.
Yeah.
So I never won one because I never focused on the cross country, even though I would still get a top 5.
You were focused on the downhill.
And my bike, because you had to use the same bike with both events. My bike was built with like 1,200 gram tires, 1,400 gram tires, and people are running more XC stuff. I'm running a single ring. They're running a 3-ring circus. So like there's a lot of give and take in that. And I knew it. And the first climb is brutal, dude. Like it's one of the hardest cross country races you'll do if you're actually giving it all.
Yeah.
And it was always before the downhill. So I was always like, okay, I'm going to race this pretty hard, but I'm more focused on the downhill.
Leave some in the tank.
And the downhill's way cooler anyways.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way that it works, you know? It's
open shell with a set of goggles?
No, I probably was sponsored by Canon back then. I just wore clear lenses, little small road helmet, and a skin suit.
Yeah. And still no pads.
No pads.
No pads.
No pads. No. Pads are for people who crash, dude. I wasn't crashing, dude.
Kelly McGarry, I saw him at Crankworks once, and he was like bleeding from both elbows profusely up at the start out of the slope style. And then there was like old scabs and then like fresh ones.
Oh yeah.
And full hamburger. And he's just kind of looking at his dripping elbows like, and I go, hey, Kelly. And I come up with the mic, you know, why don't you wear elbow pads? And he goes, oh, hey, Tippie. Well, you know, with an Australian accent, 2 kinds of people wear elbow pads. Smart people and pussies. And I ain't either one of them, he says.
Oh, man, that guy was nasty, dude.
I thought it was so good.
He's such a good man.
Yeah, I miss that guy.
Yeah, I do too.
You mentioned you were running a single ring, and then, you know, that wasn't very common back then. People had you know, front derailleurs, and There's some people in the North Shores that were using single ring to keep it simple and whatnot, and people in very simple places. But you were one of the first adopters of it as well, right here, like unbeknownst to anyone else.
Yeah, I grew up in Marin. Marin County is a special place. It's where they say they invented the mountain bike, which that's debatable, But for us, it meant that it's a police state. You can't ride here anywhere if you want to have fun. So I hooked up with Mr. Dirt. Legally. There's a lot of trail. There's like 1,500 miles of single track in this county. Maybe more. You got to fly. But the whole thing was I was building a bike that actually could get away. It was a getaway machine. Because
reliable
Ranger intervals, no dropping chains. Because a 3-ring circus, if you need to like bunny hop a barrier or you need to do a quick move, your chain could pop off, you're freaking hamburger, dude. And like you're going to get a ticket. And it wasn't even the ticket. No one really cares about the ticket, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get a ticket, you're going to pay like $220, that's entry fee. It's just getting caught. So we were building our bikes to not get caught. So ran 38 tooth, 40 tooth rings, a lot. Like that VP free that I did the 1,000,000 feet on. I had a 38 tooth.
38?
All day long.
What?
Huge rides. And I just would stand and my seat was low. And that's when Wayne Sniz, and he's from Gravity Dropper. And everyone didn't understand a seat dropper, right? They had no clue what it was, like they saw the height right. But that thing was, hey, let me grab my quick release, big spring on the back to pinch your scrotum. I don't even know what that thing's for, it was a great idea, but poorly thought out. And he's like, I got this thing that's adjustable on the fly with the bar mount. It was first the turbo where you have to pull a pin.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're doing 1,000,000 feet. I got to get this to you because I saw pictures and you're just standing. So like all the stuff we rode today, I just stood the whole time.
Seat up high?
No, down low.
Oh, okay.
I never rode a high seat.
Okay.
I rode for years with just a low seat and I stood everywhere. That's why I look like an ass with legs. Like it's just like standing everywhere.
That guy can scratch his ass reaching over his shoulder.
Yeah. You're like, hey, I got to put my beer somewhere right there. But like, it was just one. And then he gave me that thing and I'm like, holy
ding.
Yeah.
The light bulb
and everyone's all,
off.
that thing looks stupid. That'll never go. All of a sudden Crank Brothers, like you name it. Now it's on every bike you get.
Yeah.
And, just like the single ring, the single ring, I'm like, hey, single ring, big forks, just making a getaway vehicle because of where we're at. We have to be able to get away,
Getaway bike.
Like Ben always said, he's all Ranger intervals. Should we go where we know there are? It was a day that, like we don't do it anymore because we're more precise. But like back then you had to have the ability to get away. And it rarely happened, but when it did, you were ready. I'm not going to drop a chain. And back then, before it went handicap and ADA and all that, now you can get into the stuff rolling in like we did today. It used to be just all barriers. You had to bunny hop everything to get out. And I was cornered one time coming down from right where we come from, right from my house. And the Rangers are cornered on both ends of the thing. And the barriers, they're probably like over knee high.
Yeah.
They don't think you're going to, and I just came through there at like 30 and jumped that thing. And my buddy John was one of the head Rangers, but he was my friend. He saw, dude, they didn't even want to give you a ticket. They just wanted to stop and see if you could do that again. Because they didn't see that kind of stuff. Like bikes weren't doing anything like that extreme. Now it's like, kids can do that and do like a pedal flip off of it,
right?
Or, we got to the point where we'd hit it with our front wheel and get even more air off of it. Yeah, bonk off of it. And I saw a guy, Eric Rasmussen, after a big day of medevac, come back and we're going to bunny hop the thing and he comes up short and breaks both his wrists, dude. It was
at the same time.
Oh no. Yeah.
How do you wipe your ass for months?
He had a girl and they didn't work out.
Yeah. Things got shitty.
Things got shitty. I've been in that place. My wife is a hero.
Yeah. So you mentioned you did 1,000,000 vertical feet climbing on that frame right there, that Santa Cruz.
Yep.
And I don't even know what that average is. Is that like over 3,000 feet a day?
I think it ended
Just
up being around 42 or 4,300 feet a day because I raced like 30 something times that year.
Okay.
With Downieville, I got married and had a honeymoon, so I had to skip some days. So I super accelerated. Last couple months, I was doing
made up for it.
120 to 140,000 feet a month of climbing, and just doing the stuff I took you on today. I just do it every day. I do 5K a day.
Wow.
5K a day, and
adds up.
Yeah, and just keep stacking logs, gathering water.
Wow. How many times did you ever? Was that one time you cracked 1 million?
I probably done it more than that,
but you never kept track.
I never kept track because I'm so sick of that shit.
Yeah,
Like I did it that one year and it was stressful, and I did 1,175,000 feet. And there's like 3 people that have done it, but they've all come short of that, and they're all doing it on bikes that aren't like I was doing it, like a 40-pound VP free with 26-inch tires and a single ring, like much different. But not to say I'm harder than them, but I am.
But I am.
Corey Sullivan. he wanted to beat it so bad, and I'm like, dude, you did a bunch on road, dude. Yeah. So he did do it. He did do it, and he worked hard for it, and it's not easy, but you know, Ben tried it. Ben
Cruz?
Yeah, Ben Cruz tried it, and he was like, fuck this isn't even fun. I'm all, I told you it wasn't fun, dude. Like I had the bad coughs. I had this like cough, and it was raining a lot, and I'm going up that climb, and I dislocated my jaw from coughing. You ever dislocated your jaw?
No.
From like coughing and going uphill, and I had to put it back in. It was bad news. Like, yeah, it was some weird shit that I was going through, and I think I still feel some of that stuff. Like the hack, I get a hack when it gets wet out. I don't know if that has repercussions. I don't think it's healthy for you to do what I did. I don't think it's great. You know, I probably added to the fucking, you know, Widowmaker that I got just from eating so many calories and, you know, all this different stuff that you think you're bulletproof.
The candle that burns twice as bright lasts half as long.
Exactly, dude. Say. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, but it's at the time it made sense. And, you know, in the end, I'm glad I did it. You know, I think we should do 2-3 million feet on an e-bike, and that'll be just as hard too. Yeah, everyone thinks it's easy, but you know, you start doing that much, you know, like I've been climbing my e-bike a bunch with it off. I do the first, you know, 1,500 foot climb with it off, and just because I want to get back to standing up and just being on that, but then I get to where I'm at, and then I put it in turbo, and I just bust out downhill laps, dude. And I'm like, okay, I got the good fitness in. I did something good for me. I don't have as much guilt, and now I'm just gonna have fun.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, today I was in eco and trail most of the day just to make sure I had enough battery to last, you know, for the full ride and all the climbs and stuff.
Range anxiety, dude.
Yeah, just made it.
Yeah, no, you were. We only did one tug-a-bug, dude.
Yeah. What about you know, racing? You did some EWS. You never decided to do World Cup?
I did a couple World Cups. I wasn't cut out for that shit. I didn't have mechanics. I don't know if I had the skill or confidence to do the World Cup. Like I did Squaw Valley. I built the course in '99, and I was a pre-runner, they called it. Like I wasn't able to race because I wasn't qualified because I was coming from semi-pro.
Who won that?
Nicholas Vuillo won, and Chris Kavorik got second.
Okay.
And I ended
up.
You
built the course.
I built the course, and it was nasty. Palmer was pissed because I put in a bunch of nasty shit in it.
Yeah.
Big drops, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And that was Jimmy Deaton. We call him the Creative Crusher.
Yeti rider?
Yeah, back in the day, he was in charge of the course, but he never did any work, and we were building it. And built the course, and it was a nasty course, dude. Like it was a long, like people just tomahawking in the switchbacks, and I ended up with my time, I was like 12th or 14th, and I was like, oh God, I could probably race World Cup. So then I got into World Cup and realized really quick that there's a distinct difference between World Cup commitment and riding at that speed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think I'm more of an enduro racer. And I did it for 2 years or something, but just handpicked North American stuff when they were there. And, I did the one in Canada when Shams March snapped his ankle off. And
the Mont Saint Anne, or the one in out west
at G-Rouse.
At Grouse.
Yeah.
G-Rouse. North Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's snapped. And I'm like, oh God.
Oh, man.
That's where I met Fabian. And, I'm like, I was looking there and there's this big mud pit and Jordy Lund's dad built the course and they were doing all the work to it. And there's this big mud pit and I'm staring at it and I'm like, fuck, you could just kind of jump that whole thing. And I'm there and Fabian comes down. He's like, hey, you've been standing here for a while. I'm like, I'm Mark. So I'm Fabian. So what are you looking at? I'm all, I think you can just bounce off this route and jump the whole mud section. And then Miles rolls up. And that was right after his world championship. So he's all in white.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you guys looking at? So he's looking at this line, think, jump that. And Miles comes through. He's like, I'll try it. Comes up short. There's a huge root in the mud pit. Just 50-50s it and just hits him right in the thighs and goes straight in the mud pit. And Fabian looks at me, he's all, just a bit farther. And comes up and just ices it. And I'm all, see, I knew it, dude. And then, I end up hitting the race, but I still had nothing for those guys. Those guys were freaking murking, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just funny because Fabian was real nice to me. And then he just said, just a bit farther.
Just a bit further. And then did it.
And then iced it. Yeah. Pretty funny.
So you went on to race a bunch of EWSs though.
I didn't. I raced like that one in Colorado. What was that one called? I don't even remember. I think I got like 14th or something. I went to New Zealand and that I didn't do a bunch. I did. That was right when I was like, because I got hit by the tree and it broke all my stuff and pelvis and back. And
Yeah, an oak tree landed on you randomly while you're trail building.
Yeah, well, kind of randomly. More like we were tipping the thing over and it went the wrong way.
Oh, okay, I see.
And I was running, and so was Marco, and so was like all of us, and it just landed on me. And it was a bad call.
It broke a lot of stuff, I heard, or damaged a lot.
Yeah, I broke my pelvis in 3 spots. I broke my sacrum in half and my back, and had some internal bleeding. And because it was on the ranch, I didn't want to get hellied out, because I didn't want to lose the rights to go to my buddy's ranch. I didn't want any public opinion whatsoever. And all this stuff. So I waited for my friends to get a big piece of plywood, and they put me on the plywood, and you couldn't get a truck up there. So they had to hike me like a half mile out on this. And if they would have dropped me, I would have been done. And some of my friends are crying because I'm getting all bloated from blood and get me in the back of the truck. And then I go into the air suit and all that stuff. And yeah, it was not a good situation. I was in a wheelchair for a couple months. That really slowed me down. Then I came back and I raced Ashland, and they had that California series there. It was like Enduro, whatever that thing is. I don't even know what they call that shit, but and I won that coming back. And everyone, but no one gave me any respect because I had gone for like a year and a half, cut in front of me in line, practice, all this stuff, and then I smoked everyone, and I was like, I'm like 43, dude, or 42 or something like that. Yeah. And then I pretty much stopped racing. Like I went to New Zealand and I saw what enduro turned into with all the practice, that people getting there early and just getting in with the locals. And it just it didn't feel right. It felt like a waste of money because all of a sudden you had to spend all your time practicing when you could go and see so much other stuff. It was just too much competition and not enough like true life adventure when you're like not making a lot of money and you're just spending your time trying to get a result and it isn't really worth much. It didn't make sense. So like I was pretty much done with EWS. I did Whistler. I did, like all those things. I'm like, dude, this isn't a fair playing field.
The saying is the game worth the prize?
Yeah. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll just move on and do other things.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So all the way along, though, you were a tester for WTB and had a long relationship with WTB.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can test right outside your door, just up the hill and whatnot. Tell us about that relationship.
Oh, I mean, I started with them I've been there 23 years and started as a sales guy. And Patrick, who's the president, and Mark Slate, they're both owners. All the way back with Steve Potts and Charlie Cunningham, like they're all in the Hall of Fame. Slate, Cunningham, Steve Potts, and I was just sales guy. I came from a shop, and they gave me a shot to be a sales guy, and I hooked up a deal with Patrick, and I'm like, hey, if I sell, I think it was $3,200 a day, I can leave when I do it. And I hooked up with, Ken, well, it was Dave Kaplan back then, but Mike's Bikes, like all these big shops. And I was like just nailing sales. So I was leaving at like 10, 11 every day. And I just was riding my bike. And then it turned into like building a team and being more in marketing and R&D and all that stuff. So it's like just kept on carrying on. We're like a good family. It's the best company I've ever been involved in, of course, because I've been there that long. And we're just a good family, and you get to speak your mind, and everyone has something to say, and everyone's, what they say has something of meaning to everyone there. And you got the old school, like Fast Freddie Faulkner, who's a legend. He was all in that repack stuff. No one hears his name, He was just a squid back then, a little kid. But he was there. He was there. He was real as they get. And, having those kind of guys around you all the time, it was really cool. And it still is, and we're always evolving and trying to make better products. We don't want to produce total garbage, like we want to actually have something we ride. Sometimes the stuff that we ride isn't what people want to buy because they're not as core. So we got to get that kind of part in. So, but it's been a great time with them. They take care of their own, and they've been there a long time, privately owned still just right here.
That's cool.
There's not a lot of companies like that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any actually. I mean, tell me how many privately owned rubber companies and wheel manufacturers that are, they're stands, but like we're from the very bottom. Like we started way at the basement and we're still here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I started at the bottom. I kind of like it there.
Yeah. There's nowhere to go from there except up.
So for many years, like you were, with Cannondale, with James Moschler and Jerome Clements and Marco Osborne and Ben Cruz. And again, I took those guys under your wing. You had the experience and a lot of wins, and you shared that knowledge. And Ben Cruz was very fast when he put it together.
Nasty.
He just had some natural skills and guts. He's a little crazy dude.
Yeah, he's crazy.
And Marco Osborne's crazy.
Yeah.
It's such a character. But, you were mentoring those guys. How fun was it to travel with them? And then tell us a story about the bird that Ben Cruz killed in an EWS game.
The grouse.
And then ate it during an EWS race or something.
Yeah, I mean, Ben was always, so like I had a wicked pump track before pump tracks were even here. And that was, basically from something I saw from Mick Hanna. Mick Hanna had a pump track in his backyard in Australia. And I always had Sam Hill was here, Whacker, Justin Havicana, Nathan Rennie. Those guys would always be around here. Like when they were 16, like kids, 15, they hung out at my house. They almost burned my house down the first time. Yeah, shooting bottle rockets into my pampas grass and then spilling Kool-Aid on my couch.
Not the pampas grass.
Oh yeah. And then they spilled this Kool-Aid on one of my couches, and then they're like, well, we'll fix it, because I had to go to work, right? So I'm going to WTB, and I just leave all these kids at my house. They're 15. And so they wash it and then dry it, and then the cushion comes out, and it's this. I'm like, dude, that's never going on the couch again. Like,
they shrunk the
oh, it
cushion.
shrunk, dude. It was like a shrinky dink, dude. And I'm like, Susie, we need a new couch.
That's hilarious.
And you know, like hanging out with like that in my backyard. And then all of a sudden a young Ben Cruz is jumping my fence. I only had a 3-board country fence, you know, like I didn't have the walls like I have now. And he'd jump the fence and he'd be on the pump track. And I'd be like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I'm riding. Well, you can't just come out here and ride, dude. He's like, why? I don't got anywhere else to ride. I'm all, well, because I don't know you. He's like, well, I'm all, well, call your dad right now. We didn't have cell phones or anything. And he's like, calls his dad. Dad shows up. I'm all, so like, you're not going to sue? He's like, no, I'm not going to sue you. I don't give a shit. Like, he can snap himself off. You know, like his dad's, you know, he's a perfect parent, you know. And all of a sudden, Ben's hanging out. And then Ben brought Marco and the Ravinas in, and it was more like you bring one, and then he brings his friends, and then they're all in the fold, and then you're doing all you can because you know you can't do it forever, but you need someone, you know, to keep lighting the torch, and that was Ben.
Yeah.
And Marco came in, and Ben and I gave him a bike and sat there and sponsored him for a year. Gave him everything he needed, and it was just like a, you know, hand-me-downs, but they're all good, you know, and it was just more like a family. It was really nice. Now, like I told you, it's like I ride here now because I don't spend all my time here. I'm mostly in try and be in the mountains. All my friends left. I have no one to ride with.
From here at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
why I stoked to see me and Brad today.
I know.
Yeah, you're like, woo, let's go for a ride.
Let's go. Yes. Let me show you some stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, because I ride alone probably 90% of my life. 99% of my life I ride alone.
Yeah.
But back then.
But those guys could, you know, keep up with you better than the average bear, right?
Oh, no. They're ripping, dude. Like it depended on the day and who was most confident, who wanted to go first and who wanted to chase, you know, depending on what you felt. Yeah. And it was, you were always on pin. Like we were timing runs all the time. We just wanted to be fast. And, you know, I'd be coming back from Europe and I'd be like, dude, telling them the stories. And they're like, okay, well, let's build a course for it, you know? And that's, you know, what gets us into a lot of trouble.
Well, they went on to race, you know, quite a bit. And, you know, Marco Osborne got a bit of some extra fame with the nickname Randy.
Yeah, send it.
How did he get that nickname, Randy?
You know, I'm not. I think I've asked him a few times, but I failed to listen. Because he always was ready to just send it. Like you ride it this speed, and then you watch him ride it, and it's just ridiculous. Like you're like, how does he not slap?
Yeah.
Like how does he cut like that? Like he's like a cat.
Yeah.
Like he can land off stuff. If I would have taken you down Stinkfist or something like that and showed you some of his lines and that he no brakes down them, it's ballistic speed, but he just has, I mean, I handed him a 45 one time. He's never shot a gun in his life, right? You know, even though he should have, but like he nailed every freaking can out there. Like he outshot Ben and I in his first time. Like, cause we go to the ranch all the time. We just do target shooting and stuff.
Natural. Just
a natural with the eye. And I think he just knows how to read terrain and read what's going to happen next. He's a future teller, you know, he just knows it's going to happen. He's just that guy. And he's a good dude. And
yeah, he's a good dude. I've met him and partied with him at Crankworks. And I actually saw him coming down Original Sin. So fast, and he was just like you couldn't go any faster in that section, and then he clipped a pedal. Oh, did he eat it? And then he just bounced up, shook it off, and grabbed his bike and ran off and jumped on his bike. Didn't check his brakes or anything.
No.
And I'm like, who was that? Was that Marco Osborne? And they're like, yeah. Did you see that? I'm like, oh yeah, I got it. Actually, I videoed it. It was nuts. I was like, that's verifiably nuts.
Yeah.
He's a wild man.
I think everything looks a little slower in his eyes. And dude, he's king of on-site. These flies. That's what you get when you have horses and chickens, bud.
Okay.
Yeah. Horses and chickens. But like he's just a natural at on-site. That's why he's won the Transfer Vance. You know, no American's ever done that. and he schools those guys. Like he just
interprets it and executes.
And he just knows how to read terrain. He knows how to see it. He knows how to play it quickly.
Dustin Adams used to train with an F1 training race car test of looking at different things quickly and then focusing as quick as he can. And then as soon as they focus, then moving like the next thing at a different distance. And it trains your eyes to focus quickly.
Yeah. And I think some people are born with that.
Yeah.
And some people aren't.
Yeah.
Some people can train it, but some people actually have it. And, Ben had it for a little while because he had crazy in him. So
yeah,
Ben was more crazy.
Crazier than Marco, right?
Well, cause crazy because I don't think he had the same skill as Marco because rarely people do.
Yeah.
But he could go just as fast, if not faster than him in certain sections.
Just
because,
balls.
just like how does he pack those in?
What about the story of them eating a bird that they killed on the side of an EWS course or something? It was a trivia question in a pink bike video that I had to do, and I was like, "Is this true? How does this story go?"
I've heard the story a couple times from Ben, and I might not tell it correctly, but like, I think he saw a grouse in the grass, and they were
while racing an EWS.
While racing, yeah,
like doing a
in between on a social part of the course, and I think he just grabbed a rock and hucked it at it and got it, and then just grabbed it and threw it in his bag, and finished the whole rest of the races, and then went back to the house and plucked it and just ate it. I mean, grouse are good eating.
Yeah.
They're dumb as hell. Like they don't move much, like they're like, you're like, dude, you can like almost grab them. So like, yeah, I mean, those guys are hunters, they've lived in places where you can't really buy meat, especially Ben and, Marco's whole family. That's what they do. They go get their own meat or they raise their own meat, and that's how they are. It's like true frontiersmen. Just we can survive. Hillbilly hamfish. They don't care. They're just like, dude, we'll get fish.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Marco one time went to this one lake that's real deep out in the Sierras, and they didn't bring any food. That's how confident. Because they were just going to catch fish and go camping.
Live off the lake. And they did.
Oh, wow. For a few days, they're just like, we'll just eat fish.
Yeah.
And went fishing, and didn't bring anything, but they just brought a water purifier. I mean, they're pretty cool cats, dude. And they do it for them, and they don't tell many people about it because they don't really give a shit,
They're just doing it.
They're not into bragging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, you've done so many rides, so many mountains. You've raced the best in the world. You've beaten the best in the world. You had a heart attack in 2018, I read.
Oh, yeah.
That was called a widowmaker. And a widowmaker is like the gnarly one.
Yeah, that's the one that kills you.
Like, you're lucky to be here right now.
I was on Toyabe Crest Trail with my buddy Kurt, and we were doing a thing for the Nevada Tourism, Toyabe Crest, which he just revitalized. Badass trail. If anyone wants to get out of Toyabe Crest, station out of Ely, it's next level stuff, 8,000 foot peaks. And so we're doing the whole 50 off the 50, and I'm feeling this weird stuff in my chest, and I'm like, hey, it feels like I've been chopping wood. And I was chopping wood before I got there. And, when you do a lot of wood chopping, you get sore all in your cartilage. If you haven't been chopping wood for a while, and then all of a sudden you just try and do it like you remember it every year.
Your mind is like, yes, but your body's like.
And you just sit there and chop wood, and after a while it doesn't feel so bad. And then I get on this ride, and it's 7 days across Toyabe Crest on a regular bike. I wasn't on an e-bike or anything like that. These little bastards, dude. And
little flies.
So I and I'm riding every day, and I'm like, God, it hurts when I start, and then I get warmed up, and it goes away. Like you get this pain in your arms and your shoulders, and your chest just feels tight. and your mouth is watering and shit. And I'm like, then I go harder. And because I had a bunch of collateral veins around the clot because I was so exercised,
Yeah.
as soon as I got really going, those came in. So I could, they would go around the clot and feed everything, and I could go pretty hard. But by the end, like on, because it had been going on for like 3 weeks, and I'm like, that's can't be, and I was ignoring it because I'm a dumbass man. And then I come home and I'm like, this sucks. I just grab my bike and I just go pedal up the dirt road. And I'm like, I'm just going to go test it. And it hurts again. I'm like, that's not good. Like, and I call my wife. She's going to work. I'm all, Sue, I need to go to the hospital. Something's wrong with my chest or something. I don't know what it is. And I go in and they're like checking me, and I'm like, where do you hurt? I'm like, well, here, my back, everything. They're like, take me to San Francisco, and they're like, do I don't know, whatever scan they did. They're like, you need to go in right now. So then they put me on the whole calf or whatever that thing goes up your whole neck, and they're checking you. They're like, yep. And you're on this big rotating table. It feels like you're in like got grabbed by an alien or something.
Yeah,
and they're
right.
rotating big screen and shit, and you feel a feather going up your arm and it's tickling you, and the guy's like, yep, there it is, 99% blockage. And he's like, dude, you're lucky that you have collateral veins. And he's like, you're going to feel the same thing you've been feeling the whole time. Well, I put this stent in because they blow up a balloon, whatever the hell they do. You're like, oh, that kind of fucking hurts. And pull it out. They're like, your other two, like the other, there's two more on the right side. They were 30% blocked, at the time, but they don't stint anything till it's 70%. So at least I got that to look forward to, and, you're just like, all right, well, let's just roll the dice, like, so, then they try and dope you up with medications and craziness, like blood pressure medicines, and I don't have high cholesterol. I just naturally don't, but I store plaque. So that's just a gift that my grandpa gave me, also with male pattern baldness, like, thanks, Gramps, but he taught me how to fish. So, it's just like one of those things you get passed down. Not everyone gets it, but it's in my blood, and it's something you have to think about. And it gives you that, you don't feel so bulletproof no more. Like I was like riding so much and taking in so many calories and thinking that I just turn everything into vapor once it hits my blood. It couldn't stick around. It's not that way. You can't take in 10,000 calories and do 1,000,000 feet and like sit there and race for 20 years of your life, taking in way more calories. Like I probably would have been healthier if I didn't do all this stuff, because I would have prolonged my life. But how boring would that have been? You know what I mean?
You want to slide into the grave going, woo, what a ride.
Yeah.
Not with a perfectly preserved body.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, I got hit by a car.
Yeah.
You're like, no, okay, well, we'll just keep living, So yeah, that was it. That was a little bit of a stunner. So, but we're through it. I got to take a little bit of medication. I try and get off as much as I can, but you can't sit there and think about it all the time.
You're ripping today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't
There's some
stop
of these long,
you.
steep things, you're pedaling into them, and I don't know how fast you're going. It was like 45, 50 miles an hour down the side of the mountain. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Well, you can always go fast downhill. I never got tight chest going downhill, only uphill.
Yeah.
Like downhill is like a different, because I'm pretty rested going downhill.
Yeah.
As long as you're loose, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But uphills
So how long did it take to get riding to where you're happy with your riding? And how much riding do you do now? Like how much do you...
I ride quite a bit now. I mean, with testing with WTB and just, basically to keep your sanity, I probably ride my e-bike on average 30 to 40 miles a day. I try and do a dawn patrol in the morning, get in like 20 miles, and then I do a sunset, get all my work done during the day, and then go ride for the evening. I mean, it keeps you away from the addiction. You got one to give the other, you know.
Yeah.
If I don't, I might just drink all day. You never know. Depends on who shows up.
Exactly.
All my friends are gone, so now I just have to ride to keep my
cherry
sanity.
pick your moments.
Yeah. Unless I go up to Grey Eagle, then I got people that are just motivating you all the time because they're all up there now.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of toys that you like to play with. You know, you've got your mountain bikes, you've got the e-bikes, you've got the dirt bike, you've got the sick Jeep with the 40-inch tires and Fox suspension, and you've got the RC cars, a whole bunch of different models over there that you have a track that you carve. And you're a better RC racer than a mountain biker, I heard.
Oh yeah, no, like I always said, I was a pretty good mountain biker, but I was born to RC. Like you see me off road, it's pretty nerdy, but people see you in action, and it's basically screen time for us. You know, like when you're this old, that's what the kids are probably really good at. But then you see how, and it's a lot of tuning. You know, like Nicholas and I would talk for hours about RC. Like when we go to do those. Verge, Cabo Verde, or you know, like Urge with Fred Glow would put on.
Yeah,
and we just sit there and talk RC because we love tuning them. You're like, okay, the suspension doing this. You know, you're controlling all of it. You actually can feel the difference and
see the difference, feel the difference.
Oh yeah, and just hear it. You know, like and that led to a lot of different things because they had in the RC cars they had all these sensors you can put on it. And back in the day, I was putting these sensors on.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
really?
on the suspension, like they had G meters, like all this stuff, and I started putting that stuff on my bikes, like temp sensors on the brakes, on the suspension, see how hot the suspension, like all this different stuff, so you could change fluids and RC is just a geek sport that's super fun, and I can do with people that are basically would have been awesome mountain bikers. But they just went to Nerdville, USA, and we just geek out. And some of them are brilliant. Like, and we do the races out here, and it is super fun and it's super family. So like, you know, we have the kids race, you get all this stuff. So it's all encompassing of just being a super geek on a bike. It transfers right over to RC, whether it's RC crawling or just jumping in the Jeep and going wheeling and bringing your RC cars to wheel your toy instead of your big Jeep because there's less consequences.
Oh man, that sounds amazing. Well, you're killing it, man. You've done some amazing things. You've set the bar very high. You've you're a competitive dude. You've dominated. You've raced the best in the world. You have a beautiful family, and and you work in a industry that you love, and so that's checking off all the boxes pretty much, and living in a beautiful place on trails that you built. Like, it's pretty cool, man. Like, hats off to you.
Yeah, no, I feel blessed by aliens.
Yeah. Take me to your dealer. Ever seen a UFO? I haven't.
I have.
You have?
Well, I think I did, but it just looked like some kind of bomb that blew up and then shot one way up the hill. I was in 8th grade. We didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Who knows what it was?
My dad said he saw an alien in Stettler, Alberta, fly over the farm, and my grandpa was in the next field, and they came over after it flew by, and he said, "Did you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah." "Did you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Listen, we're not going to tell anyone about this. We don't want them to think those crazy tippies saw a UFO." So they kept it hush, and then he told me years later. And they went, "Yeah, we've seen it." So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you never know. It could have been a weird shooting star that actually comes down and then shoots up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I believe.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. This has been a nice little quick talk.
Yeah.
And we have a tradition here where everyone ends with a dad joke or some kind of a joke. So do you have a joke for us?
God, okay. Well, my dad did say one time, "Son, don't bother looking for a match. Just use a lighter."
Nice.
It's corny.
Yeah, I asked for corny. The cheesier, the better.
That was cheesy.
I got a cheesy one for you.
Okay.
I had to stop my dog from chasing people on a bike by taking away the dog's bike. Cheesy. Hey,
hey,
yeah, dad
hey,
jokes are cheesy. Semenek sent me one on Instagram. Hey, Tippie, did you hear about the explosion at the cheese factory? There was nothing left but debris. I answered, did you hear about the world's dumbest criminal? They asked him to blow up a car and he burned his lips on the tailpipe.
I don't know how you know all these. It's
Dude,
insanity.
how many jokes for today, eh?
Oh, I would say 50 or 60, 70.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, probably 40, 50 jokes maybe.
I would say like
over
the whole ride.
Yeah.
There was like we stop and it's just like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A little angle with the conversation and then a segue. Boom! And then back to the conversation again.
That's what you get with the picture mind, bud.
Today was fun. I was smiling lots. It was an amazing ride, and it's been an honor to go for a shred with you and visit you in your home here.
Well, thank you for actually including me in your reindeer games.
Mark Weir, everybody.